Hello and welcome to British English with me, Alexander. Wherever you are in the world right now, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today we're gonna be talking about another unit. This is Unit 7 from our course of Advanced Grammar in Use. Again, this is the book we're using, Advanced Grammar in Use. This is a self-study reference and practice book for advanced learners of English. It is from Cambridge University by Martin Hewins. Okay, this is advanced grammar. We're discussing basically British grammar specifically, and it's important to know all the tenses in English so you can read the news article, you can read English magazines, understand the news, all the things that are inside the English language. Today, this is one of the last of a series. We're talking about the past, and today we're going to be talking about the past perfect continuous and its relation with the already studied past perfect and past continuous. But basically, our focus is going to be on the past perfect continuous. Okay, before we start it, please, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Share it with your friends, English learners, English students all over the world who want to improve their English and bring it to the next level. Okay, let's start it. We're going to start with section A. Okay, so let's read the text out loud so that you can learn grammar and at the same time you can learn the pronunciation, connected speech, elision, intrusive ER, all the things, stress, word stress, sentence stress. And at the same time, this is an exercise that enables you to increase your vocabulary. You might be able to read 5,000, 6,000 words by studying like that. Okay, let's continue with the focus of today's lesson, which is the past perfect continuous, or the past perfect in its continuous form. Okay, here we go. We use the past perfect continuous to talk about something that was in progress recently before or up to a past point in time. And the past perfect when we talk about a finished activity before a past time. So, for example, I'd been finishing some work in the garden when Leah arrived. So, I was finishing some work in the garden. This is a past event in progress when Leah arrived. This is simple past. So what happened first? I was working in the garden and Leah arrived. So, I didn't hear her come in. Again, I'd been finishing some work in the garden when Leah arrived. So I didn't hear her come in. Not I'd finished some work in the garden when Leah arrived. So I didn't hear her come in. Okay, so use the past perfect continuous to express something that was in progress when another event happened. Another example. I'd finished all the ironing, so I started cleaning the windows. I'd finished all the ironing, so I started cleaning the windows. Not I'd been finishing all the ironing, so I started cleaning the windows. I'd finished. So what's the difference between that example and the previous one? In that exercise, we have I'd finished. I had finished. This is the past perfect. And the previous one is the past perfect continuous. So, for example, I'd finished all the ironing, so I started cleaning the windows. So first, I had finished all the ironing, and then I started cleaning the windows. Notice the difference here. For example, when we have had finished past perfect, the event is finished in the past, and now we're doing something totally new. Whereas had been finishing, it goes past the point in the past. That is, it's a previous action that was happening in the past. We can often use either the past perfect continuous or the past perfect with a similar meaning. For example, I'd been working hard all year, so I felt that I deserved a holiday. Or, I'd worked hard all year, so I felt that I deserved a holiday. So in that case, it has a similar meaning. Okay, let's go through section B now. If we talk about how many times something happened in a period up to a particular past time, we use the past perfect, not the past perfect continuous. For example, how many times had you met him before yesterday? Not how many times had you been meeting? No. How many times had you met him before yesterday? How many occasions? Another example, I had stayed in the hotel twice in the 1990s. Not I had been staying in the hotel twice. Now let's go through section C. The past perfect continuous can be used to talk about a situation or activity that went on before a particular past time and 1. Finished at that time. For example, we'd been driving for about an hour when the engine suddenly stopped. So, we'd been driving for about an hour and the engine, bang, stopped and we stopped driving. So, the activity or event of driving was in progress until the moment that the engine stopped. At the same time, it stopped. Again, the past perfect continuous can be used to talk about a situation or activity that went on before a particular past time and finished at that time. We've already seen Unity 1. 2. Continued beyond it. For example, she felt terrible during the interview because she had been suffering from flu since the previous day. So, she had a flu. She had been suffering with the flu. And then she decided to participate of an interview and she was still with the flu. So the action, the situation of the suffering went beyond that particular event, the interview. It continued for some time. It continued beyond it. So, again, the past perfect continuous can be used to talk about a situation or activity that went on before a particular past time and finished at that time, continued beyond it, or 3. Finished shortly before it. This is the last example. For example, when I last saw Omar, he'd been running and he was out of breath. So, Omar was running. Perhaps he'd already stopped and it was just the action of running practically had already finished and I could see that he was out of breath. So the action of running stopped, finished shortly before the second event, which is the action of seeing. When I last saw Ma, he'd already stopped running and was out of breath, just like that. Okay, if we're not interested in how long the activity went on, we can use the past continuous instead of the past perfect continuous. Compare. When the merger was announced, it became apparent that the two companies had been discussing the possibility since last year. Or, a friend told me about a conversation she'd recently overheard. Two women were discussing their holiday plans. So it doesn't make any difference, because if we're not interested in how long the activity went on, we can use the past continuous or the past perfect continuous. Okay, let's move on. For example, I first met Matthew and Lucia when they had been going out together for 5 years, and they didn't get married for another 3 years after that. So we use the past perfect continuous because we're considering the importance of emphasizing the period of time, its duration. On the other hand, for example, we have Karin met Lars when she was going out with his friend. This is the past continuous. We might not use the past perfect continuous if the duration of time is not that important. Okay, let's go now through section D. Remember that we don't describe states with continuous tenses, and we use the past perfect, not the past perfect continuous, even when we focus on the length of a situation up to a particular past time. For example, we had only owned the car for 6 weeks when the clutch broke. Not we had been owning the car for 6 weeks, because it's a state verb, the verb to own, right? Okay, let's go through the last unit now. The last section, section E. The past perfect continuous is mainly used in written texts and is less common in speech. Here's an example in a newspaper article. The body of a climber who went missing in the Alps was finally found yesterday. Carl Sims had been climbing alone near the Harz waterfall, which has claimed many lives in the past. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. As you can see, you can learn vocabulary, you can understand the difference between those tenses, learn pronunciation, all the things that are necessary for you to improve your English, and so that you can understand written English, spoken English, and all the things related to the texts and the conversations. So there are some people who say that you don't need grammar to understand English, but it's sort of impossible. How are you going to express your ideas, your feelings, to establish your conversations in English if you don't resort to the tenses in English, the past perfect continuous, the present perfect, all the tenses that are really useful to express ideas, things, and activities in our lives. That's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel, share the content with your friends and English students all over the world. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Cheers.